Welcome back to another episode of Random Book Talk. I'm Veronica Milsom. This month we're chatting to Nick Earls, who's the author of 14 novels, including the best-selling Zigzag Street, Bachelor Kisses and The True Story of Butterfish. His new novel, The Fix, is Random House Australia's Book of the Month for August. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks.
Where did the idea for The Fix come from?
Well, it actually came along so long ago that I'd forgotten where it came from until recently, and I decided to go back and see where it had come from. It was deep at the bottom of a big file of notes, and there it was, written on the back of an envelope, I think. I just had the idea of coming up with a character who, looking at how media works now and how public things can become so quickly for private people, and I thought it'd be interesting to have someone who was a private person doing a non-public job, but for whom two of the biggest things in their life that should have been secret had become public in a big way.
So how long ago was it that you wrote on that envelope? When did the concept and the characters start developing?
It was at least 7 or 8 years ago. It might have been 10.
Slow burn.
Yeah. Normally things are a little bit quicker than that. I ended up actually writing it as a screenplay first. I hadn't planned to do that, but various things of mine were in film development at the time, and a few had become plays, and I think I learned a bit from that, from seeing the choices people make in those media. And in this case, I started to see it as a film before I could see it as a novel. And I wrote it as a film and then handed it over to a producer who got very interested in the idea and gave me some feedback for the next draft. And it was in the process of taking that feedback on where he came up with a very good filmic idea to take the way I'd started it and do something a little bit like that at the end. And when I thought about that, I thought, yeah, I can make that work. And then suddenly I thought, I can make that a whole lot better. Here's what it really means. Came up with a new ending and thought, now I really want to write that novel, because it was an ending the like of which I don't think I'd found before, and it did get me very keen. And so I had all this stuff, and I had the screenplay drafts, and I had all the notes, and then I just had to find out the novel version of it.
There is a good twist in the end. I very much like the end, and I did feel like it was very filmic, sort of the way it's done. So what's happened to the screenplay now?
The screenplay, this is one of the reasons I'm a novelist, because, writing screenplays can often make writing novels look like a sensible job. So where it's at the moment is I've taken out a couple of drafts down the track, and my film agent in Los Angeles is actually talking to American TV people about it.
Wow.
Yeah, look, I used to think wow, and it's very reasonable to think wow, but really most of the time it's probably better to accept the flattery and any free food that's on offer and expect nothing more than that.
Well, it would surely be a mistake if they would make Josh Lang, the main character, a sort of schmick, good-looking, well-dressed man, because he is the typical writer. You don't really make writing sound like a glamorous job from the perspective of Josh Lang. How much of Nick Earls is in Josh Lang?
Well, he does have that fondness for fortune cookies, and I must admit there was one time when I cracked a fortune cookie and gave a cursory glance to the fortune, having had most of them before, and started eating it and thinking, wow, that's actually really good. Maybe I could have another couple of those and it would be like dessert. And then thinking, don't do this in front of people, don't turn fortune cookies into a meal, because that's just embarrassing. I think one of the odd things about being a writer is that, there might be the occasional film premiere and stuff like that where you have to rush to the wardrobe and see if you've got any good clothes and remember to shave. But a lot of the time, I do. I wake up in the morning and I pick up the clothes that I dumped on the floor next to the bed the day before, and I go to work. And if it's been days and days since I've shaved and my face is annoying me, maybe I'll shave. But otherwise I won't. So it can kind of be like that.
So you claim to be not too much like Josh Lang. Have you ever been a spin doctor or worked in PR?
I've worked with plenty of them, and that's what I've drawn that from, I guess. In my time as an author, I've worked with dozens of publicists. Not intentionally, they seem to leave the company after I work with them. They tell me it's not me. They keep telling me it's not me. So yeah, I've been spun. That's the answer to your question. Okay. I haven't been spinning people. I've been in the role that the Ben Harkin character is in this novel, where I'm there with a book, working with publicists and going out there and doing that. So I figure I might as well pay attention and use that.
As well as working as a sort of spin doctor, Josh also is a blogger. you seem to sort of make reference to the vacuous kind of content that bloggers write these days. Was there a point that you were trying to make about the new age of writing?
Well, I think some blogging is compelling writing. I mean, there are people out there who blog and, you know, you really want to read it. I hasten to add, so that I don't get murdered by loads of bloggers.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm responsible for some of the vacuous blogging, so I think we can all accept that there's vacuous blogging out there. In fact, a couple of years ago, when the true story of Butterfish came out and I was lined up to blog on the Random House website, I thought, I'm going to use this to practice for Josh. I'm going to have some of his blog topics that I've got lined up for the novel, and I'm actually going to blog and see how that goes.
Now, one of the other consistent things about your characters throughout your novels is that they're often quite young, sort of in their teens or 20s. What do you think it's saying about you, Nick Earls, that you write these younger kind of characters, often, you know, loveless young men, forlorn?
See, the longer you go, the more it seems like you're trying to make a very particular point here.
I'm not.
Of course you are. Yes. Yeah, well, you took it to that loveless point. I think that's where it got a bit personal.
No.
But no, of course it didn't. You're interested, good. Well, okay, so there's like a couple of different things going on there. I guess my central characters have been aged between 16 and 38 so far would be my oldest. What those ages have in common is they're all ages that I've been. So I've been at least one version of that, and I've seen a bunch of other versions of that. That's a handy background to have. It doesn't mean that I can't write a character who's like 75. I mean, I do have an imagination. I'd like to think I would find a way of doing that, but maybe, you know, I'll really be able to ace 75 when I'm about 80 and can put it into perspective. So I think that's probably it. I didn't write characters in their mid 30s or late 30s until I was about 40. So I'd kind of been through that, seen some of it, seen several people do it, and thought, okay, I can do that. I can convince myself I can do that. And then, of course, there's the lovelorn aspect. And I think the thing about that is that there's story in it. You can take it somewhere. You can do something with it. If your central character is happy in a relationship that they've been in for 20 years, there's no story in that. There's story in other things maybe. You can write about those people if there's great stuff to write about them, and I'm totally open to that. But you've got another angle if that's part of their life as well. And it felt right for Josh. I needed to start Josh out somewhere where he wasn't particularly happy and was trying to re-establish himself and work out who he was going to be. I needed it to be an interesting time in his life.
My final question for you is one that we're asking all of the authors for Random Book Talk. What was the book that most influenced your life and why?
I guess, I mean, everyone then goes, one book, you want me to name one book? And there is, but anyway.
Yeah, we do.
I can't, just one. That's it, that's the rule.
Whatever, there's no rules.
But I can do one. Spalding Gray's Monster in a Box. No one expects that one, but here's what happened. In the early 90s, I was writing stuff that practically no one wanted to read and that only my mother was prepared to buy. I needed to find a different way to write. And a friend of mine, for my birthday, gave me Spalding Gray's Monster in a Box. It was a slim book, kind of looked like a novella. It's actually a monologue. Spalding Gray was an actor who played like the obstetrician in Beaches and did a whole lot of supporting roles for a couple of decades there. But he also did monologues. He did one called Swimming to Cambodia, then he did Monster in a Box, and I think there might have been another. And they were published. So what she'd given me was a published monologue. And what really struck me, I liked the way he told the story, but what really struck me was the voice. I thought, this is like being inside someone's head. It totally feels like someone. It's not like an act of writing at all. It didn't feel like it had been written. And I thought, maybe I could do my version of that. Maybe I can get into a character's head that way and create something that feels as though you're eavesdropping on someone's thoughts and just kind of living things through their eyes rather than it looking like it's been written. And I gave that a shot and things changed quite dramatically for me. I ended up writing books that some people actually wanted to read and it became my job. So I kind of owe that to him.
Thank you so much for joining us on Random Book Talk, Nick Earls.
Thank you.
If you want to download a chapter of The Fix, you can do so at randomhouse.com.au. Join us next time. We'll be speaking to Elliot Perlman, whose new book is called The Street Sweeper.